Good morning. Before I begin the Dharma talk, which is titled Talking to the Movie, Talking to the Movie, Talking to the Movie, Talking to the Movie. Before I begin that, I said that several times, so you can remind me what the title was, in case I forget it. Where the hell have you been? See,
Oh, you know.
huh?
Oh, you know.
Oh, you know.
COVID and
I like that.
yeah.
It's only been about, what, 4 years or
Something like
something?
that.
3.5 years. Well, welcome back. Did you walk?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you walk?
No.
Oh, okay.
Drove down.
Okay.
Should have walked.
Should have walked?
Should have walked.
Yeah, that's a pretty fancy name. Should have walked. Should have walked. So thank you to everyone who's been helping us in this community, a very small community, very small Sangha, totally maybe a few dozen people. Not important to have a large one. And the large ones are difficult. So thank you for all of your help that you've given financially and also by participating, by being here and interacting with this kind of a teaching. And those of you who have been coming and entering the book studies where you participate with other Sangha members. As soon as you start studying, you're a Sangha member. You don't need to make that official ever if you don't want to. Just attend and participate. And please continue to help us if you can. Talking to the movie. That topic or that talk title is meant to help me talk about a particular thing. It's just kind of an image to help you see what you or I am doing all the time. You could, the simplest understanding is if you watch a movie, you'll talk to it. Oh, don't do that. Don't go in that door. If it's a mystery, or if it's a possibly a comedy, you would say, well, that wasn't particularly funny. Or that it was hilarious. June, come here. Listen, you know what he just said? And then maybe the actor will come out in you and you'll repeat. I mean, we're constantly participating in everything. Much easier if it's a movie, because it's a movie. So, but this is happening in your mind stream. You are talking to your interior or exterior movie constantly, reifying, validating what? Ego, 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 me, and my stuff, and what I like, what I don't like. You don't get to have your way with anything unless temporarily, unless you go to war with it. Then you'll have the illusion of war and peace. Oh, we finally got that over. Finally, we've settled that. For a long time, I thought she wasn't going to agree with me, but now she does. She sees my point of view. Just a bunch of baloney. Don't conclude anything. You don't need to conclude anything. If you're on a spiritual path, this is not about the relative form of knowing. That's an incredibly powerful form. That's why we have skyscrapers and internal combustion engines and electric cars, on and on and on. That's why we have anti-gravity machines. Well, you don't know about that yet, but that's coming. Because that is all physical, mechanical things that go this way, go that way. You can interfere with that and change it based on knowing what that is, all that relative truth to help you do this or do that. We're talking to that when anything that shows up in your mind stream, commentary, elaboration, validation, condemnation, justification, all the other Asians. We're constantly chattering, which reestablishes reinforces the reality, which is unreal, of what's happening in our mind. We believe our thoughts. We believe our feelings. We have feelings. They are very, very powerful. One of the ways you can start doing away with the feeling of the feeling is to blame someone for it. Immediately, if you can blame someone for how you feel, then it doesn't feel quite as bad because they're the ones who caused it. Just need to get away from them or scold them. Don't you dare talk to me like that. We have all these little phrases, don't you dare. No thought there, it's just an incredibly powerful phrase filler where you don't have to really reflect on what you're doing in that particular environment with that particular person at that particular time. You drag it right out of the past karma that has been established by you and other beings down through the centuries. Stop it. Don't do that. See what this is yourself. Go to the wall, sit down, hold still. You don't have to be a Buddhist. You don't have to be a monk. You don't have to receive vows. That would be up to you. You may need that. You may see the value of that once you've sat for a few years. You may see that you might need to find some kind of a form that's stronger than your own damn mind stream, which is just one movie after another that you accept, reject, and shut away. Don't do anything with it. If you accept it, confusion. If you reject it, confusion. If you ignore it, confusion. Those are the three poisons. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I don't know what that other one's for. The three poisons. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. With those three activities in the mind stream, those three kinds of energies, we continually cover up our I don't know how else to say it. God damn it. Pardon my expletives. It's just, the older I get and the more I talk to people, I get more and more irritated with people. I'm saying it's there. It's right in front of you. But if you don't spend time looking at the wall, hold still and train yourself to see better. Sharpen the blade of awareness. Sharpen it on the stone of that wall. Sharpen it on the stone of your own mind where you're not accepting it, you're not rejecting it, you're not doing anything with it. And that way, the awareness, the consciousness, which is not relative. It can't die. Who you are can't die. This body's going down, and the more you're identified with this body and this thought process, right and wrong, up and down, should and shouldn't, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't be having this, I shouldn't have to deal with this. Talking to the movie. Always talking to the movie. Don't you get worn out with that? Don't you? It's what do they call those? Regenerative questions? No. It's something about retro. No, it's rhetorical. Isn't that it? Rhetorical question? What does rhetor mean? Do you know? You're a legal analyst, aren't you? Don't look over there. Mr. Sick.
Oh, you're looking at me?
Yeah, well, I was looking at him. I get you guys mixed up because of the similarity in the beard.
Rhetorical, what's it from?
Yeah, what's it?
Rhetor? I think it's like some sort of French dance.
French dance?
Yeah.
Nobody's attorney. No wonder he's an attorney. It's a French dance. He killed her because they were French dancing, and they got their swords mixed up, and somebody got their throat slit. It's that simple. It's a movie, and we add to it. We see part of the movie arising in our mind, and we can't receive that movie, which is your karma. Don't miss your life. If something shows up in your mind stream, even if he, she, they seem to have caused that, no, that's incorrect. That's the mundane path of correcting, fixing, running away from this, running towards this, passion, aggression, ignorance. You don't have to do that with your life. You may not like this kind of a message or messenger. That's up to you. I can't polish what I'm saying so it's more acceptable. I don't intend to. I'm very, very old. I may not be here much longer, but the more I function as a teacher, which has only been about the last 15, 16 years, the more I get just irritated. And what is irritation? It's dependently arisen. There's no one who's irritated. It just comes out of this. It is a combination of things that you cannot find a source for. Why? Because they're not separate from each other. The appearance of separation is intense. It is called illusion, if you see what it is. And it is called delusion if you think it's something other than what should be happening, or if you take exception to it. So I want to emphasize this. Don't ever have to come to the monastery. You don't have to receive precepts. But if you're in a house and have the luxury of having some time to actually sit down and do nothing, please do it. Please sit down. Look at the wall. Don't stare at the wall. Gaze at the wall. Softer word. Just gaze. That means you may drift off to sleep. You may wake back up. It doesn't matter if you fall asleep or not. It is only about awareness, consciousness. It's not about a particular kind of consciousness they call mindfulness. To me, that's, people want to do that, and go study with them. Trying to attain a state is a misunderstanding. This is it. This is this. There is no state. There's just this. There's just mind only. Mind is the Buddha. This is the Buddha. I'm the Buddha. You're the Buddha. This is all awakened. It's completely awake. Nothing is slept forever. But when it singularizes, is that a word? When it singularizes down into an individual consciousness, using this physical form to establish itself as somebody going somewhere with a particular agenda, Chunky Monkey ice cream at the store, with a particular thing you need to do, you can do that. Just don't believe it as something that actually has some kind of solid, substantial, or dependable reality to it. Nothing is dependable. It is dependently arisen. Gesundheit, Sokuzan. I didn't hear it, but I saw it. So you can do this. You can train your mind to see clearly, look at the wall, watch what moves, practice on your own thought stream, which goes this way, goes that way, goes up, goes down, gets really large, gets really small, falls to sleep, wakes back up, gets up, goes to the restroom, come back. Watch the movement, watch the movement. Don't add, subtract, or divide. The ego mind, that part of the consciousness, the seventh consciousness as it is taught in the Yogacara tradition, will try to get you to do what? Grasp. This is my property. Those are my feelings. Those are not your feelings. Those are feelings, but they don't. If you think they belong to you, you'll go to war with them, trying to push them down. Aggression. Or you'll try to fluff them up and blame somebody. Passion. Think somebody else caused your feelings. Come on. Come on. What does that mean? Does that really mean come on? Or is there something else that means? Come on. Yeah, what I'm saying is, look closely. Look closely at who you are, what this is. Save all beings. That's the main vow of the Mahayana, the Bodhisattva path. Be with all things. Same thing. Just everything that happens needs to be. This doesn't mean that you don't see something that is very painful to somebody, that you don't immediately, spontaneously, not impulsively, there's a difference, step into that and serve at the basic nature of what is happening. It might be something as simple as stopping someone from doing something that's negative or harmful to other people. You can come up with all kinds of stories there. If you have to think about it and worry and wonder, should I be doing this? Should I interfere with a person at a supermarket who is beating their child? Just one example. Find out who you are. Don't wander around with some kind of identity that keeps changing. I'm the person who is miserable. I'm the person who's feeling pretty good today. How you doing? I'm feeling pretty good today. Well, you weren't doing so good yesterday. Yeah, yesterday sucked. We constantly rotate around and grasp at identity, looking for somebody. That should be a little bit of a clue to you that the identity part of your consciousness is never stable. If you see what this is, you won't know who you are, because there is no identity separate from anything else. Everything you see is you. Everything you hear is you. Is you. Everything you smell, taste, touch, think, worry about, everything, all the worries that come up. Don't get rid of those. Those are the Buddha. That is the Buddha. That is awakening. Anything that arises in the consciousness is the awakened one. not the individual who lived 2,500 years ago, but what he was pointing at and what I am endeavoring to point at. And I say endeavoring because I don't have any proof. I don't need proof. I don't need proof for anything. I don't have to live another minute. I was reminded that yesterday at the funeral we held here for Al Graves, who died at the age of 52. He said that was awfully young. No, that's a perfect age. Perfect. Why? Because that's what happened. Look at that. Whatever's happening, that's what's happening. If there's a little twinge of self-centeredness anywhere in the consciousness that you have not looked at, not gotten rid of, not talking about that, but not justified, not validated, not confirmed, and all the other corny things that happen. If that isn't there, if that awareness is not there, then you will take side, you will join, you will obstruct, you will confuse, you'll spin around, you'll blame others for how you feel, simply put. No one is pouring buckets of emotion in you. You are consciousness only. Realize it. Realize it. Realize it. How you do it? Look at all the negativity and do nothing with it. Look at the negativity that rises between you and another person. Don't intercept anything with your philosophy. I can take 13 questions, or well, maybe 15. I mean, I can answer them, but I can take them. Go ahead.
Shoto bowing.
Shoto.
If we see what this is in the image of talking to the movie, does the talking become part of the movie?
Sure. And nothing changes. All you're just aware of it. But awareness has no status as a thing. But the consciousness self is just on receive. The consciousness that is confused is on producing. It's on making stuff, pushing at stuff. This is consciousness. This is consciousness. How are you doing? That's not rhetorical. Go ahead.
Okay.
Good. You look good. Yeah. What's been going on? Oh, I have another question.
Shoto bowing. I'm wondering around the identity too.
Yes.
If that becomes, if one transcends a belief in a separate identity, is there still an identity that comes and goes?
Yes, but you see, it's an illusion. You're no longer deluded by the ego. And so therefore, I have in the past called it the clown on the roof of your house. It's there, it's hanging around, it's looking for some, if you ever need me, just let me know and I can come right down the side, jump in the window, and I take over your life for you. I call it a clown because it's unreal. It's made up, it's invented. And it's on the roof because if you see what this is, it doesn't go away. It just doesn't have much access to you anymore, to the consciousness. It's no longer at the helm. There is no one at the helm. Suffering will not end. The first noble truth of the Buddha, life is suffering. The second one is caused by wanting something else. It's the elseness, that everything is empty of elseness. If it isn't empty of elseness, then you think there's something right, something wrong, something should be, and you're confused by the illusion of duality, by the mirage of duality, which I talked about recently based on the writings in the Vidyadhara's sadhana of Mahamudra. More? Further questions? Yes, sir.
Milka bowing. If we see that we're talking to the movie, do we need to do something to
No.
stop?
Just aware. If you are aware that you have a commentary going on everything that happens, as you're aware of that, the initial area of that, I won't call it stages, but the initial area is you won't say as much. Your vocal cords won't get used to add to the confusion of I'm a body in the world going somewhere, trying to get rid of wrong and enhance what is correct or right. It's confusing. If you look at the precepts, the 16 precepts will take you right into that realm. You already know that. You're a monk. It's not about obeying anything. More?
You know, Kabbalah, can the precepts look like we're talking to a movie?
Yeah, and that may go on forever. Doesn't matter. You don't have to change. You don't have to do anything. Consciousness doesn't have any form. And you and me or any of us are identified with this body. We've been brushing our teeth, hopefully, and been, wiping our butts forever. Here we are, still doing it over. And doesn't this get better? No, it doesn't. Well, then what does happen? It does. Find out. I can tell you right now, nothing happens. You transcend this world, everything stops happening. It doesn't mean that it's not happening. It just means that it's unreal. So if you go and watch, The Grapes of Wrath, the movie, or if you watch, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I'll name a few movies. Or an old movie, Gone with the Wind. It's a movie that has a kind of reality. When we look at it, that we're engaged with that. We really are. But we say, well, it's just a movie. Well, everything in your mind is a movie. It's unreal. What year were you born?
1965.
How do you know that?
I don't really know that.
No, you're told that. It's just a social index that we work with. We just buy it. It's easier just to buy into some kind of index. So that's how we operate out of, rather than actually live as a living consciousness that is in a biological form. But you're not limited to this biological form. This is called the spiritual path. When this body-mind collapses, unless you are so identified with right and wrong, life and death, success and failure, good guy, bad guy, if you're identified with that polarity, then consciousness will continue to be stuck to that. Not forever, but 4,000 or 5,000 years maybe. More? Yes, sir.
Anybody? What's happening when I notice that I'm talking to the movie and then then the talking just dies down?
What do you want to know?
I want to know, is that like the ego hiding, or is that?
No, it's just what you just described it. That was it. No more, no less. Unless there is, or unless there isn't. You can't find a reference point. That's why it's so hard, and that's why ego starts. The imaginary form of identity called the ego, which is like a fist, starts to come apart. It doesn't come apart because you're doing something to it. It's coming apart because you're not doing anything to it, and it keeps its status as a sovereign by paranoia. What's going to happen next? Paranoia. What if? Well, if I do this, that'll happen. Story after story after story. It's painful. Painful to you, painful for those who are in close proximity to you, because you, not necessarily you, but me, will download onto someone else. Because we don't like that feeling. And it relieves things a little bit to just, you don't necessarily even have to tell them, just think that, well, if it weren't for her or him or that activity or this, then I would feel better. More? Let's go in there if you have it.
No, I don't have it right.
Okay. Anyone else in here? Sir?
Thorough bowing. If we see that we're believing the talking,
Yes.
is that any different than not believing it?
So I'm following the question, but what is it you want to know? Because if you know that, you won't ask that question. Unless you're asking on behalf of all these dodos in here who don't get it. Other than Sato, I could tell it Sato. Go ahead.
Thorough bowing. I'm just looking at to not believe our thoughts or something like that. If that ever shows up different than just being aware that we're believing our thoughts.
It's just, yes, it's just the awareness. It may, but it's It's just aware that you're buying into this and you're selling that and you're ignoring this. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. Just watch that. It will take some time. We've been doing this for lifetime after lifetime. Here we are. I know I have. Been a long path. More?
So allowing it, can we actually not believe what's showing up in our minds?
You can disbelieve it, which is a way of rejecting it. Just, that's not true. Don't disbelieve it. If it's showing up, there's something happening there, and I can tell you what it is. It's not separate. Nothing is separate from anything else. That is the illusion we are deluded by. If you begin to see it, the war is over. Even though things can still keep occurring, you can still have negative emotions. You can still slam your fist on the countertop. You probably won't do much of that, but maybe some of that still needs to come tumbling out on occasion. And you won't, if something like that happens, you won't immediately leave that for how terrible you've been. You don't flip off into an identity, and that clown comes right off that roof, right? Oh, I'm ready to be responsible for that. I'm the terrible person that can't control my temper. Don't get tricked by that. When I say don't get tricked, maybe the only way you can see it is to witness yourself do that a few times with as much receptivity as you can, to see that you're deliberately clouding your own mind stream with garbage of the illusion of control. You can't control anything. I can pick this up, I can put it down, but I didn't invent this as a person. The personhood puts this down, picks this up. This kotsu was made out of a tree. I don't know where the rest of the tree is at. Maybe they made 15,000 kotsus. But this is dependent origination that we think is so real. We're here and we have this, we have a car and we have clothing and we have breakfast. And we don't get them confused. They're real obviously different things moving from one to the next. It gives us the illusion of movement. It gives us the illusion of being able to control or do something. More about that, if you have it, sir.
Shoto bowing. Do thoughts arise with the pushing, pulling, or ignoring?
Yes. Yes, sir.
What does it mean to feel an emotion to the center of the earth if it's not my emotion?
Well, if you need a reference point, use the earth. That just means do it so far that it loses all personhood. So it's just a really big emotion. But to come back away out of the emotion and some kind of attribution that I'm feeling this and it's because of her or him or that or this or that. So that gets rid of the overwhelming power of emotion. More?
When I hear you say that it's not my emotion, what shows up is like a distance from it, like it's not as personal or as visceral. Is that a misunderstanding?
I don't know if it's a misunderstanding, but the lack of personhood there. Actually, the personhood actually helps you not feel it as deeply, because then there's some attribution going on. But if you just feel it, then it could just blow you out of the water. I mean, it could be intense, but that intensity may only last 15 minutes or 15 seconds, or I could go on and on. It's conditional. You're at the mercy, insofar as a personhood, of conditional existence, and this is why the three types of pain: the pain of pain, the pain of alternation, and the pain of the composite. The pain of the composite, it can only be seen by those who have transcended or have begun to transcend the personal self. First Bhumi Bodhisattvas, someone who is dedicated to themselves, to this path, and are beginning to see the truth that there's no separate beings, but yet the people who think they are separate beings are torturing each other, torturing themselves, blaming others for how they feel. It's not that there wasn't a relative thing. She said this, did that, and then I moved over here, and then all of a sudden I got hit with a barrage of criticisms and accusations and finger shaking. Receive it, receive it, receive it. Defend nothing. There's nothing to defend. If you really are not defending anything, it can be the pain can be very, very difficult. And this is how the person who is working with that vow, the vow to be with all things, the third of the three pure precepts, be with all things, save all beings. It's going to, you start to get the pain of the composite. Most people feel the pain of pain and the pain of alternation. Most people do not feel the pain of the composite because they've isolated themselves into this separate bag of flesh who's going somewhere and likes to go around without socks on. Ring a bell? I mean, it has opinions, ideas, little structures that keeps that part of the consciousness located in a body with nerve endings. But if you see what this is, then your feeling, as I've said before, goes to the center of the earth. It's everywhere. It's not that you're going to feel what's happening three doors down, but you won't be able to be around people without being extremely sensitive to what they're going through. Not in the form of a story, just the feeling itself. Don't do anything with it, but receive it. Just, in other words, be with all things. Don't leave what is showing up in the consciousness for what you think it is. Don't leave the movie by talking to the movie. Just receive the movie. If you start producing, very simple idea of producing and receiving, to break it down that way. Just receive. Receive this incredible world. Receive the incredible generosity of this world that is just flowing towards you from everywhere. And it's flowing towards what? Consciousness. It's flowing towards itself. The greatest gift is to yourself. Would have to be. Now, on this path, it would have to be to yourself. But if you do that, then what we call compassion flows towards everything and everyone. And it's not something you do, it's something you are. You just are that. That doesn't mean you won't meet somebody and say, get the hell out of my hojo, which I've yet to do to you, but I'm coming to that pretty soon. So you're able to be, not impulsive, not compulsive, but you could say spontaneous if you need a word. You're just there. You're not separate from anything. So you're seeing everything, not in the form of information about it, but you're not separate from it. So you're not separated. The person that you're talking to has separated themselves out as an individual being. This over here having a hell of a hard time with this or that story and whatever. And you have the same stories go through your mind, same, maybe more suffering, maybe more pain. You don't do anything about it because you understand the nature of paratantra or dependent origination. You see that there's, as is said conventionally, there is no self in the skandhas. Form, feeling, perception, concept, thinking process, and consciousness of the six sense fields and their object do not get together and form a me or an I that has anything, any kind of integral quality to it other than just a temporary assemblage of parts that gets together to what's for breakfast? We need to run to the store. We need to get the tire fixed. It's going flat again. Damn tire. What was it that did that? Crabapple tree thorns? Oh, that was the lawnmower did that too. So I'm saying we get so elaborate about our description of what's happening of the movie that it just makes it very real. And especially if part of that movie comes at us in some threatening way or some, withholding something, or we're not getting something we need or think we need or want, we just reify that and create more of a story. But you can live right in this, even to say, like it said in, what was it? I can't remember, the Ram Dass's book back in the 70s, Be Here Now. There is no now. Although what he was attempting to do is to encourage people to just be in the present moment. So I might say that a little bit, but my interest in helping you comes from watching the way you keep abandoning everything, not just you, but me. How we keep moving away from what this is and what we'd like it to be, what it shouldn't be, or some kind of elaboration, some kind of a talking to the movie. More?
What is the apparent singularity of the body-mind, if not personhood?
It is an illusion because it is something that is created out of all kinds of parts, all kinds of energies, all kinds of. So it is the illusion of separation. It's astonishing, isn't it? You don't think it is? It's astonishing to actually see that this is unreal. This is, as Trungpa Rinpoche aptly put it in his Sadhana of Mahamudra, vividly. Vivid means vivid. It's vivid, it's sharp, it's clear, it's brilliant, unreal in emptiness, yet there's still form. It's like, how do you just describe an illusion, a contradiction? If it's an illusion, and you're deluded by it, you think it's real. You think your mind, your thoughts are real, and you continually go in and push some down, fluff some up, or ignore some, and that keeps that whole cartwheel going around and around. That's why it's called samsara, the wheel of life and death, life and death. That's the big mystery, because we're all alive, so we think that death is the end of everything. Nothing comes to an end unless it's started. And of course, the body has the illusion of starting, so it's going to have the illusion of going back into the elements, earth, water, fire, air. And it will just go away. It won't be here anymore. You can think about it, but you can't play with it anymore. It's gone. But where did you go? You didn't go anywhere. The actual you, not the fictitious identity supported by, held up by, and fueled by hope and fear. Hope for something better, fear of something worse. This is what most of the world is running on right now. It's tragic to just watch the news for 10 minutes. Even the so-called good guys are going in circles because they don't understand the nature of their minds. They actually believe that there's a right and a wrong. And those demons in human form are making the best of it. More? Thank you for your questions. Any questions on Zoom? Susan.
Susan Dowling.
I was waiting for you, Susan.
Sokuzan. I was stunned to discover that who I thought you were had actually just been a projection of my mind, a figment of my imagination. So does that mean that who I think I am is only a figment of my imagination as well? Dowling.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah, you can't actually find me. I mean, I am manifest as a pretty strong personality, but there's no structure there. You come after me and try to pin me down somewhere, I might sob. I might say, you hurt my feelings, or I might say any number of things. I don't care what I say. I'm not concerned with outcomes. I'm only concerned with intention, and my intention is to save you. And how do I save you? Point out the danger. How do I point out the danger? I can't. I have to get you to go to the wall and look at that, and look at the danger of you containing yourself with this body-mind complex you think is you. But it goes into the earth, goes into the dirt, goes into the fire, goes into the water, goes into the air. Karma, circularity. And I mean, I could make comments on that, but the projection is what we do with others. We project onto people. And then we relate to the projection and actually totally miss whoever it is, whether it's an enlightened person or whether it's a person who is completely balled up in delusion and is swinging their fists this way and that. More, Susan.
So Susan Bowing, Sokuzan, so that's where if you take these projections away, what is there, Bowing?
Zero. That it is an illusion that we're deluded by, and the way in which we're deluded by the illusion is we think this whole dream that is going on has some kind of authenticity to it or stability, and it does not. And if you realize it, you're done. When I say you're done, you're not even done, because there never was anybody. So it contradicts itself at the same time. It affirms what? Freedom. You're no longer, you still have the emotions. You can still have negative emotions, positive, neutral, whatever can come and go, but they can't find a prisoner anymore. There's no one who is locked up by thoughts and emotions, feelings, memories, judgments. They come and go, and they are, in the Tibetan tradition, this is called Rangjung, or I guess it is. Is that a Rangjung? Yeah. What is Rangjung? Self-existing. It just means that that's part of the illusion. This looks like something. Rangjung. This looks like something. Rangjung, self-existing. It has the illusion of being someone going somewhere. If you're in that human form that you are all in, I don't see any demons anywhere. There might be a few deities. Don't believe anything. Don't disbelieve anything. Don't ignore it. Realize your true nature. Return to your ultimate identity, which is technically would be Dharmakaya. The ultimate truth, the body of truth. Dharma, truth. Kaya, body. It's just that. It's not even a form. How do I know about it? Here again, tiring to hear this probably, but I don't, it's not conventional knowledge. It's just, you see it. You will see it.
Susan Bowing, final question. So if there's nothing, if the projections are gone, then how do you relate, or what are you relating to, or who is doing the relating? Bowing.
Well, in my situation as a Dharma teacher, I meet, if you bring me a pile of shit, well, that's what we'll work with. I won't point out the shit. And if you bring me a bag of diamonds, then we'll work with that. We'll work with whatever comes this way, whatever person comes this way as a student, and functions as a student. Then I will meet them where they're at, insofar as I'm able, coming from how I see what I see here, what I see in you, what I see in the environment, what I've been looking at in my own mind for half a century. So we'll just work with it together. It's very, very mutual. You can't have a simple way of thinking about duality. You can't have a teacher unless there's a student. So if it's a true teacher, that teacher won't say much. They might talk like this, give a public Dharma talk. But the important part, I think, comes out from the interaction between someone who was functioning as a student and the one who whatever sets themselves up. They're not really setting themselves up. They do it. You do it. You set this person up as a teacher. But there's no solid identity anywhere. That's an illusion we are deluded by. You can see that. Everyone here, if you're listening to me, then you've gotten through a lot of preconceptions and judgments and prejudice about the nature of reality. If you're even listening to such a person as I am, a Buddhist monk in a monastery in Battle Creek, Michigan. Who the hell's that guy? So, more? Susan?
So Sokuzan, Susan Bowing. So is that because the projections are not true, but they seem to be everywhere? Is that why you tell us to basically keep our mouths shut? Bowing.
Yeah. Don't hook up your vocal cords. Give it some. It's the common precept or common word for that. It might not fit right away, but if you reflect on it, it's just patience. Just be with all things. Even though something triggers you and is aggravating, and you hear someone's talking in a direction that seems circular or doesn't make any sense, the temptation is to want to correct them based on our superior understanding, possibly one way of talking about it. And what I'm saying is just receive. Nothing needs to be accomplished. The idea of accomplishing something is just basically materialism. What you're looking for is already the case. The Dzogchen masters have been pointing this out for centuries, and Zen masters and the Buddha have saying this is already what you're looking for. Stop covering it up. And how do you do that? You have to watch the cover-ups, because we, you, me, I, we all. This is how I know about it, because I cover up. I haven't stopped covering up. You don't need to be someone else. You get to be the karma you're trying to avoid. I often say, don't miss your life. Be the negativity that's arising in your mind stream, so you can be sincere, genuine with yourself, with your whatever we call this human form. You can actually live in an open dimension. You could call it reality. You could call it Nirmanakaya. You could give it names, but it can't be described. It's ordinary, and it's completely outrageous, and is totally inscrutable. Yes,
Sokuzan,
louder, please.
with your teaching, there's just this. Is that the great perfection?
Yes.
Just this. Is the great perfection suffering without wanting something else then?
Close. As long as there's a human form, there's going to be desire. So what becomes a problem is when there's a demand. You have the desire, and because you don't like having a desire that you can't fulfill, so you start demanding it. I mean, maybe not out in the open, but you start thinking, this needs to happen. I need this. I need this to stop. I need this to start. You know, all kinds of circularity going on there. Just receive the emotion. Be completely generous to anything that arises in your mind stream and give. And what are you giving? Your attention. Don't miss your life by shutting down, blaming others, running away from others, running to others. Don't do any of that. And if you can, but if you do find yourself impulsively or whatever word you want to use, jumping into this, jumping into that, running your mouth here, pointing your finger here, threatening, blaming, and all of this, then just so far as you can, observe it as much as you can without fighting with it. I sometimes say it this way: be the crap or be the shit you're trying to get rid of. So you get very familiar with it. You can't learn about that by, oh, I'm not going to go in there. It's too shitty in there. I need to go over here. It's like looking for your car keys where there's more light, but it's not where you lost them at. You heard of that story? Yeah. You're out under the street light looking for your car keys, and someone says, what are you doing? Looking for my car keys. Where did you lose them? Over there in the weeds. Well, why are you out here? Because there's more light here. No, go into the weeds. Go into the weeds of your own mind. Go into the forest of your own mind. This is what you do when you sit down in front of the wall. You might not go into the weeds there or go into that darkness in your mind, but you're training yourself to do it because you're sitting down and you're not going to look for results. You're going to have the intention to see, to smell, taste, touch, think, have that intention. And then that can come about quickly, or it might take decades. Do it anyway. Live a spiritual life. It might not look like it to others, might not look like it to you. But if you have a teacher, which in this case you do, I say do it anyway, no matter what happens, no matter what. I mean that, no matter what. Don't look for results, please. People are winding around all of it, looking for advertisements for somebody who can promise sanity. Meditate this way and you'll get this. Meditate. And I'm not saying these are just necessarily just people who are trying to control you, but they might be trying to make money or whatever more.
Zuka bowing. If the great perfection it is suffering, which I think you said it was,
Not separate from anything.
how is that not nihilism?
Well, you can call it nihilism if you want to. I can call it strawberry jello. It's just a name. I'm not being silly. How is that not nihilism? What is nihilism? Define it. You just use the word. How presumptuous of you. You can use a word you don't even know the meaning. Like parliamentarianism. I just used it. I don't know what that means, but I could use the word. Am I mocking you? No. No, I'm not. What is nihilism? You ask, how is that not nihilism? Well, tell me what nihilism is, or what you think it is. Or you could just tell me what Unyo thinks it is. Maybe easier. Just check with her and see what she thinks. We'll talk about it.
I think I'm using it as a shorthand for my mind saying, well,
Yeah.
if it's just suffering, then nothing matters.
Yeah, nothing matters. That's what I was waiting to hear. Yeah. I've turned that around and said, do this no matter what. When you use the word matter, no matter what shows up, don't buy it, don't sell it, don't ignore it. You're beginning to weep. What does that mean? You're beginning to move your thumb. I watch everyone's body language. I don't leave the movement of your thumb like this for what that means. I'm not interpreting body language. Like, what was that one movie? People were interpreting everybody's body language. No, you're doing exactly what you need to do. It's just hard. Don't stop. Keep going. Do it anyway. Keep going. Return to the wall. Return to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, over and over and over and over again for the rest of your life. What else are you going to do? Yeah, what else are you going to do? Go to the ball game? Well, you could, because even Sokuzan goes to ball games. We have a record of him. Kelly, is Kelly on here? Took a picture of what was it? Oh, Sokuzan, that guy, watching a ball game. The only thing I was wrong with that is he didn't invite me. Why? Because he assumed I don't like ball games. That's a mistake. There isn't anything I don't like. Have a further question coming out of those tears? Go ahead.
Yoka Bowing, questions from YouTube.
Okay.
Shane Bowing, you said there's no one at the helm. What turns the ship to avoid a dangerous reef or goes headlong into the rocks when the sirens call?
Maybe nothing. Or if you want the kind of answer I think you're looking for, it's just consciousness only. There's no personhood there. It's even if there's no personhood, then the kind of personal protection situation isn't over the top. It's a little bit, because you need to be there. Somebody's got to take the helm. But the consciousness is without boundaries. And you won't know it. If someone knows that, then we're right back to the singularity of somebody trying to save their own ass. Yes.
And a question from Jeremy Bowing. Is there a point to know when to turn from just receiving or observing or doing nothing with it into compassion?
That
Does
go-
wait, I answer that.
that is compassion. Compassion doesn't. There's no compassionator behind compassion. If there is, that's ego. I'm not saying it isn't a highfalutin, very kind, loving, supportive kind of ego. But if that ego gets threatened, you can watch it curl up into a ball and protect itself. The one who is actually compassion can't be threatened, because they are not concerned with outcomes. They're only concerned with the force of wisdom, compassion. More?
Yoka Bowing, his second question, does compassion help the sadness or anger pass? Bowing.
If I understand the question, you're wondering if compassion will kind of help you out a little bit. I don't know. But you won't care. There's no one left to give a shit about it. Sounds kind of crude way of saying it, but maybe that might be the best way of saying it. You're not going to care. This doesn't mean you won't have feelings and emotions, but there's no feeler behind it. There's no thinker behind the thoughts. There's just thoughts, and they're crazy, sometimes even insane. The very insanity you've been trying to avoid, if you liberate yourself from this bullshit belief in a being who's living here, you liberate yourself, then all of the crap that has been trying to crawl up the walls of the cave, the walls of the well, all those negative energies, they can do whatever they want. You watch them. It doesn't mean that they won't scare you. Do it anyway. You can do this. I say this over and over again because you might need to hear that. I certainly needed to hear it, and I did hear it from Trungpa. I didn't hear it from Kobun. Kobun was a more advanced stage of teaching where he ignored me, wouldn't talk to me. Probably the most powerful teaching I got was from Kobun.
Navid Bowing.
Navid.
Sometimes when I'm watching the movie, I might be triggered by the movie and be pulled back into a memory or some aspect of my life. The memory has a lifespan and I'm back into the movie. And
Yes.
I miss that part of the movie. I was wondering if an awakened being spontaneously looks at a movie without deviating from it.
Without what?
Deviating from it.
May deviate, but the awareness of that is it's the awareness, the consciousness that is important there, not whether they deviate or because the differentiation and desire is not getting confused anymore. The desire is there; it's liberated. There could be desires, the deviation. It's fine. Things go this way, go that way. The mosquito with one antenna is not a problem. It's just slightly different than the other mosquitoes. Isn't that a great image for your question? Now tell me what you really want to know, Naveed. What do you want to know?
I was just wondering if an enlightened person is spontaneous without deviating, without just
Yes. I
any
would say
thought or-
to the way you seem to be asking the question, I would say yes. There's no plan. There's no, if there's an intention there, the intention comes out of the vow. But there are, I'm sure there are enlightened beings that are not Buddhist or come to this understanding through other structures or people. They're spontaneous realizers who just their self-centeredness just collapses and falls away. But usually they don't start teaching. Usually they spend 15 or 20 years trying to see what it is they even need to do with the understanding that was freely given to them. So but there's no, okay, you're welcome. Further question? Don't hesitate, please. Sir.
How do we work with it? Like, if we're hiding out from part of the movie that seemed to have happened a long time.
Yeah. How do you work with it?
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like you already are, because you're aware. It's awareness. It's not trying to become more aware of that. You don't need to modify, control anything. Just sit. You need to meditate. I'm very biased about that. You need to sit down, hold still, and watch what continues to. When you hold everything still that you can, without being rigid, the mind will start moving in a way. It takes years. Mind will start moving, and you get to watch how it's like you're losing ground more and more and more instead of you're improving. It's like you're seeing a complete desolation of the entire idea of getting somewhere, being someone, commonly called materialism. And that's difficult to do without the encouragement of what the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the teacher, the teaching, specifically teaching on emptiness, but also teaching on vipassana, the idea of duality. There's no self, there's no other, there's just perception only. So just continue. More?
If that part of hiding out is preventing us from experiencing the movie now, I guess I don't know the question.
It's all right to, I mean, you're doing it, what you're asking about. You're already doing it. It's just that you're feeling a little bit confused about whether you really like yourself or not.
Or it's more about emotions. It's like,
okay,
you know,
let's go there.
It's like, it feels like something that, or things that happened in the past that prevented emotions from happening.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Keep going. Is there a specific question about it?
I mean, the specific question is, is around how do I go into those emotions that I can't go into?
You're look at what you just said. You are aware that there are emotions you can't go into. That's like standing in front of that door. I can't open. I know they're there, but I can't find a way to open the door. Just look at the door. You do it with awareness. If you do it with awareness, the hinges will fall off the door, the latch will fall apart, the boards, if it's made of wood, I'm just using that as an image, it would just start to come apart, and you won't even walk through it. You'll just see that you've never been separate from what you were looking for. Heartbreaking to see that. To know how much people fight with this because they don't know that it's a spiritual path. of seeing and awareness, not a mundane path of accomplishing, wrestling, and getting ahead of the game, and somehow dealing with your anger, getting over the hump of this or that, or being someone else. And this is enforced by the belief there's a separate being that can accomplish anything. That separate being is already not separate from the Buddha. It already is awakening. It actually is the Buddha. Dogen was saying this in the 13th century. Sit down, hold still, gaze at the wall. Buddha. I don't think he said Buddha like I did. Might have. That is it. But it will take a while to see it. Just continue to return, sit down, watch what's happening, and then watch how that shows up in the rest of your life without accepting, rejecting, or shutting down. And of course, that process, as you heard me say a lot, means you might have to watch the way you shut down quite a bit before that starts to lose its gravitas, or its power, or its hold on that. Also say, if you want to let go of something, the fixation you might have on something, don't try to pull away from it or manipulate it as if it has some kind of reality. It is an illusion. So you just watch the disturbance, just watch the illusion that you think is real until you see that it's an illusion. You see that it's an illusion, and no one let go. Because if someone lets go, materialism, then we get a better ego, a more control person who's making some progress. There is no progress. There's just this. See it. I'll help you. Even that's a relative statement. How do I help you? I am not going to abandon you. You may abandon me. I've had that happen a few times. Probably not done with that, but I would say don't abandon anything, especially the teacher, especially the Dharma, especially the community. Very tempting sometimes, though. Now that you've been here for a few months, is it getting more tempting to split?
No.
Oh, good. Okay. I feel so reassured. Very good. Is there a final question? I can take one, maybe more.
Yes, Peter Belling.
Peter, go ahead.
How do I stop checking myself to see if I'm enlightened yet?
Yeah, well, I can help you there. Don't worry about stopping. Just that you can say that. That betrays that you can see how ridiculous that is to even do that. So you're already aware of that. You're aware that checking to see if you're enlightened. There's no way you can know if you're enlightened. You're enlightened. There's no way. Enlightenment is not something that occurs. It's not an occurrence. It's not a state of mind. Enlightenment is not, even though it's talked about that as the Vajra-like samadhi, but these are all path names that are meant to magnetize you, to get you to do what is just about impossible to do, is to train your mind to see the truth. The 30 verses of Vasubandhu, reading that is about drawing you in intellectually to the nature of reality that has been understood beyond the concepts. And Vasubandhu has very graciously stepped back into concepts, and because of his extreme erudition, or whatever you want to call it, has been able to talk about this in such a way that if you study those concepts, you can see that you have to see what that means. But if you see what it means, it's not like you've concluded anything. It's like something has just stopped, and it's the grasping at a self, the grasping at another. It has just come to a conclusion that is conclusionless. There's no conclusion. There couldn't be, because there's nothing left. There is no solid reality that has any dependability that would support any kind of individual called a self or an other to get somewhere or not get somewhere, or live or die, or whatever it may be. So all you have to do, Peter, is just continue to look at it. The way you asked the question, I would say, get to the wall, sit as much as you can, train your mind to see very clearly and precisely the way you are not getting any proof. You won't get proof. If you get proof, it's not awakening. It might be a high level of consciousness where you reach some kind of samadhi or something where you feel at one with the universe. No, it's better than that. It's worse than that. How is it better? Complete liberation. Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi is the title, is the word for that. It has that fancy word because otherwise all you could say is nothing happens, which His Holiness the 16th Karmapa did say when he was passing into Parinirvana in 1981. Nothing happens. You could almost see a whole lifetime. Now you see 59 or something like that of teaching. I'm gonna let them have it here just before I pass away. Nothing happens. Profound teaching, but people understood that to the point where they even made bumper stickers that said nothing happens on it. If you went to Chicago, you would see bumper stickers with nothing happens on there written on it. And so liberation, and then from the other end of it is a complete devastation to ego. And yet nothing is devastated because ego never was real. There never was an ego. So therefore, that which arises and wants this and doesn't want that is still going to show up. If you look for results, you actually miss what this is, because you're busy looking in the cupboard for the breadcrumbs when there's a whole bakery right behind you. Everything is available.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Kayun, do you have a question?
Kayun bowing. Reading me like a
book.
Or
reading you like a text.
Kayun bowing. I was thinking about what Andy was saying about the emotion behind the closed door. And I was wondering if, usually that comes up for me as negativity, but I was wondering if the seeming open door of pleasure is also a closed door, bowing.
Say more. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess the wanting something else seems like an opportunity for more and more and more possibility, but is that itself an obstruction, bowing? I
don't feel that it is. Sometimes that gets confused. We think we have to give up all desire, and this is why often this is called the middle way. The Buddhism is called the middle way, not too tight, not too loose. So you don't have to completely go one direction or the other direction. You could have some desire could come up, but it's just dependently risen, and you could say it's a self-existing. It's just desire. There's no one who desires anything. That identity, and even that identity may show up, but you see that that's unreal. So you don't have to fight with it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to get rid of it or ignore it. It's just unreal. It has no substance to it. Just like awakening, as I talked about recently, enlightenment or realization has no substance. So going back to what Peter was asking about, you're not gonna get any proof. If you get proof, then you're still on the ladder. You're still 3 or 4 steps down the ladder. It's a one-rung ladder that you need to step off from, and it's not stepping off from that one rung so much as it's seeing that never was a ladder. The rung, the uprights to the ladder were never there. That's how you step off.
Kayun bowing, is that rung jung bowing?
No, that's numb junkie. Numb junkie. You can quote me. Stop it, Kayun. Okay, I think we can go elsewhere. And not that there is an elsewhere, but we're going to do it anyway.
I'll stand and dedicate the merit.
May the merit of this penetrate into all places, so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiho san chi chi hu, chi song gu sa mo go sa, mo go ho ja ho ro mi. The 10 directions, the 3 times, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna, Paramita. O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.